don't come here anymore.
He's over there like I'm new to this. All right. Yeah.
Closer. Oh, it's this one. This one goes forward.
I don't know. Try it. Yes.
Did you see my text message?
No.
I said, did you need me for the animal care?
Oh.
Otherwise, I'll volunteer like I've always done.
I guess let's see how many we get. All right. Should we get this show on the road? Let's see how many people heard me.
Attention all!
Excellent.
First slide.
Hang on. Out of primary school for too long, I think. It must have been 10, 20 years for some of you guys since you've been in grade school? I think, I thought I was overestimating. Thank you all so much for coming to our annual meeting today. We have a jam-packed schedule with a couple of guests, and we're very excited to tell you what we've been up to. So I will give you guys a couple of seconds to find your seats, finish up conversations while I ask this question. It's one that I like to ask periodically just so we can set expectations. How many of you, is this your first Lake Association meeting? We have some new people. Welcome. How many of you guys have been here for a couple of meetings? Under 5. How many of you guys have been attending for over 5 years? We haven't scared you off yet? Well, thank you for coming back. We're so glad that you're here with us. And so I'm going to run through our agenda very quickly and introduce you to our board of directors. Let's see if I know how to use the clicker. Am I projecting enough? Can everyone hear me? Excellent. Okay. So my name is Esri Farnham. I'm the president of the Lake Association. And here's what we're going to talk to you about today. So we, of course, have our introduction to the board. These are the people that have been working all year to make sure that the lake is at its best. Then we are going to go through our secretary report and our treasury report. That is what we talked about last year. And I will also help you guys to know, for anyone that hasn't been to this meeting before, what motions look like and what we ask of you. The treasury report also looks a little different this year. We're trying out something new, so please feel free to let me know if it's working. We'll have some committee updates. So that is aquatic invasive species, water quality, charitable fundraising, and then community involvement. And then our last thing is director updates. Now, all of you, I had some people come up to me and tell me that the second they come up to me, they know that I'm going to ask them to be involved on the board. And just know, you're not safe where you're sitting. I would like you all to seriously consider, if you have an interest in the Lake Association, being on our board. We have 4 seats open this year, and I will get into what those positions look like, what you might be doing, and what we have set up to make sure that you're completely acclimated. You can find a board director, ask them nicely, approach them gently, and they will assure you that I do an okay job of making sure that you're not scared away in the first week. So please consider being a director for the Lake Association. With that, here's our board. So you know me, I've been up here for all of 30 seconds. Then we have Joe Clocker, who you might have met at the check-in desk. He is our vice president and also the one who runs all of our charitable fundraising. We have Kevin Farnham, who manages all of our aquatic invasive species management. So if you have noticed that starry stonewort is the lowest it's been in years, you have him and his efforts to thank. We have Ray Lanning, who I don't think is with us today, but has done a lot to help with charitable fundraising as well. Andy Wendroth has been a big part of our membership. Dan Ziegler, who you may know from the Coronis Ministries, is a fantastic support to all of our individual efforts. Joe Burback has done the survey that you guys might have seen and taken, who is a new addition to our board. Amy Erdman, you might know from the Painesville Press, does a lot of our newsletter stuff. She is the person who gets it all out to you guys. Hudson Gray does a lot of our community involvement stuff as well. You may have met him at the check-in desk. And then Shanna Clocker is our secretary and a new board director as well, who does a lot with me. With that, Shanna, do you want to come up and present the secretary's report? Oh, so while you're getting this microphone on, for those of you that haven't been to a meeting before, here's what we're going to ask. We're going to run through each of the reports, telling you the most crucial pieces of information. It's been up on the website for a little bit, so that's where you could have gone through and looked. We can also take a little bit of questions here. Then I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the secretary's report. If one of you feels so moved, you will say, so moved. I will then ask for a second. If you feel moved to have a second, then you say seconded. Please say your name at this time so that we're able to properly record it in this year's minutes. Then I will ask all of you if you would be for approving the minutes. If you are, you'll say aye. If you are opposed, I will ask and you will say nay. If you would like to abstain, if minutes really aren't your thing and you feel really opposed to approving the minutes, I will also give you that chance. Sound good? Everyone clear? Perfect.
All right, thank you. So minutes are kind of a boring but necessary part of the board and recording in detail what's been approved and the ideas and everything that we've shared and discussed. So this is last year's meeting, which was on July 13th, 2024, right here at the park. You know, I just detail some of the items that were discussed, last year's secretary approvals, the treasury report approval, the expenses and operating. This is from the charitable gambling section. And every year that gets presented, the charitable fundraising really is a huge part of the association, and all of the information on that is on our website and posted. That's one of the requirements. But we do go through each part of that at the annual meeting. And if you have any questions on that, we're very open and just willing to answer questions on that information. There was also a lot of information from the watershed. And last year we had Ken Hess still on the board, and he was handling all the water quality subjects. And he's still continued to help us through this last year, and he's got some projects that are ongoing, even though he's not on the board. He's been helping the board with a lot of those projects. We had the Painesville Area Community Foundation present last year. So some of the minutes were regarding that. And we had the directors that were voted on, which was Joe Burbach and myself, actually, even though I've been involved in the association. I decided to join as a board member that way. Since I'm going to the meetings, I might as well be voting. So we do need a certain amount of board directors to attend each meeting. So there are 4 open seats. So we really encourage you to consider joining. It's a great group of people, all kind of after the same thing. We love our lake, and we just really want to support and encourage quality in every area. So this was the meeting minutes from last year, and now we'll ask if anyone would like to start the approval.
Are there any questions that we can answer before? Awesome, then I think we are good to go. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve last year's annual meeting minutes? And your name, sir? Thank you. Would anyone like to second? Thank you. All for? Aye. All opposed? Would anyone like to abstain? Excellent, motion passes. Right, and now for those of you that are new, your first motion. Congratulations. All right, so this is what our treasury report looks like this year. So we have made $31,000 from different donations, and this includes memorial donations, water quality donations, aquatic invasive species donations, fireworks, and individual and business contributions. If you're wondering where the charitable fundraising makes it onto this section, it will be in the next section, a part of committee updates. There is a unique way that the state has us move these funds around so it doesn't all show up on our financial reports. If you're looking for it there, it might be a bit hidden, but normally it would be here. We have not moved anything over as of this report generation, so that's why it's not here. For our expenses, we had $26,647 for different community involvement events, aquatic invasive species things, and water quality projects. I do have a graphic that can make this a little bit more simple, a little bit more intuitive. But if people feel comfortable, we can approve this right now and go to the graphic, or would people like to see the graphic first? A Minnesotan with an opinion. 1. Graphic. This is my beautiful graphic. I stayed up very late making it, so everyone feel free to tell me how wonderful it looks. So over here is all of our donations and also our grants and reimbursements. So what you saw on this last page is not entirely what we are processing, because what you're seeing is the additional things. So in here, I included what we get for AIS reimbursements and grants. Kevin is fantastic at going out and finding the money that we need in order to be able to cover so much of the starry stonewort management treatment so that not a lot of it comes back on the lakeshore owners. So although we talked about relatively small numbers in comparison to some of these numbers, we have a lot of that coming from grants and reimbursements that wouldn't show on our Treasury report. So we spent $149,000, or we got $149,000 in AIS grants and donations, and we spent $150,000 on management. If you're wondering where all that number comes from, we'll have a breakdown in the AIS section. We had about $2,000 for water quality donations, about $14,000 for fireworks donations, a similar amount for individual and business donations, and then we had $2,000 come in for memorials. We had a very similar amount that we spent, so we're about spending what we get in. We do spend slightly more than what we get in, and the rest of that is covered by charitable fundraising. So again, that is the next section, so we'll be able to talk more about that. But does anyone have any questions about the... I clicked the wrong button. Okay. Getting to review the grades. Does anyone have any questions about the Treasury report? All right. Can I get a motion to approve last year's Treasury report? Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. All for approving last year's Treasury report. All opposed? Would anyone like to abstain? Motion passes. Thank you so much. All right. So now we are going to get into the fun part, the committees. So each of our board directors does a different thing. We like to have each of our directors really be in charge of a committee, of a branch of our lake association. And we do have 3 different things that we consider our main projects. So over there, you might have noticed that we had a postcard with lake life protected as the big words on it. And then we broke down into aquatic invasive species, water quality, and community involvement. Now, we already talked a little bit about the directors that are going to be working on those, but now you're going to be introduced to them even more. So for charitable fundraising, we're going to have Joe Clocker up here talking a little bit more about it. For aquatic invasive species, we have Kevin Farnham. For water quality, we have our guest, Colton from the Watershed, and then I also will fill in a little bit of information. And then for community involvement, we're going to be telling you a little bit about the results we got from the survey. If you are interested in learning more information about each of these things, if your questions aren't completely answered, we're happy to answer any questions at the end. And we also have handouts over there if you'd like to learn on your own time. With that said, guys, I swear it's not me, it's the clicker. Okay.
You just want to run through the slides for me?
Yeah, I'll do
Perfect.
that.
All right. So this year, Andy and I really tackled the charitable fundraising. As we had mentioned, Ray helped us through would have been the back half of last year. Then he had some work changes and ended up not being able to help. So, but we appreciate he helped a lot in the initial charitable gambling and getting everything set up and creating processes and everything for us to be able to train new people in the charitable gambling. So we also did horse racing with the River Lakes youth hockey. So Saturday nights through the winter, they were running the horse racing. It was like the first and third Saturday of every month up at Shady's. And then we did a meat raffle for Shady's anniversary. They usually have a band that comes in, and we did meat raffle and horse racing in the band. So this is just a overview of the year, just a quick snapshot. So I just can point out some quick numbers here. So total income for the year was $209,000, $146,000, and then so if you go to the next slide, there should be another. Can you blow that up? No, unfortunately not. So net profits for the year. So this would be we made it was at 209,000. The total expenses, which is things like taxes, rent, we have to pay for all the games, ends up coming out to 151,000. So our total net profit was $57,243. And then as you can see here, oh, there you go. So this 501c3, that is what we are considered as an organization. So the charitable fundraising was able to donate $33,598 to the KLA over the course of the last year. The youth, the $3,891, that is what the Hockey Association made on the horse racing that they do on the Saturday nights. And then just a little bit more of a breakdown is we're able to pay for all of our taxes and everything for the organization out of the charitable gambling account. So that's very helpful that we don't need to use other funds in order to be able to just pay taxes. So basically, this number doesn't necessarily mean too much because this is basically like operational costs and things like that or we keep that money in the charitable gambling account for operational expenses. And that's where, so it was 57,000 that we made. We donated almost 34,000 of that back to the association. We have to treat the gambling account as kind of its own entity, just for tax purposes and things like that. So that is a breakdown of from July 1st of last year to July 1st of this year.
Do you need a motion or anything for this?
Not for this part.
Okay. So I will also chime in here to say that if there is for those of you that have been here through all of our growing pains with charitable fundraising, you have probably heard a bit here and there, but just for everyone who maybe hasn't heard some of that information, the reason why some of our numbers can look really big up front and then we're only transferring $34,000 toward KLA is because of what is Joe saying, that we cannot move money back from KLA to the charitable gambling account. So we need all of that money to pay for taxes, to pay for rent, for anything that comes up. So we don't want to be too hasty in moving money out. But there is a certain amount that we're required to move, that we do move, and that goes on to cover things like community involvement. That has covered a couple of water quality projects that we'll talk about later. And so all of that money that we can move, we do move to immediately affect all of the different water quality projects and community involvement things we're working on. And with that, I will move to the next one.
So this is the June actual expenses. And like Ezri was just saying, you can see some numbers on here as to why we do carry a balance in the gambling account, just because they're with taxes and things like that. It's obviously based on how much is played and all of those things. So I do need a motion to approve this. This is June's actual expenses. So these were checks that were written out in June to be able to pay for rent. We have to pay I can just actually run through them really quick. So the first one, the eBingo, that's a company that manages the online gaming at Shady's, specifically for the bingo. So they have it works as kind of a profit share thing, and we pay rent on whatever we make. We have an accounting software that we pay for monthly. This next line item is for actual paper pull tab games. And then the following one, the 4923, that is for the games on the tablets as well, but not the bingo games. And then the rent payment, that is based on how much money that we make at Shady's. So that's just a monthly payment. And then the next two are compensation for the two of us that run all of the charitable gambling. And then the horse racing line item is on there, but we haven't been doing horse racing for a few months now. And then that last one is Department of Revenue taxes paid to the state of Minnesota. So that total is $20,386.43. So can I get a motion to approve?
That's 1 month?
That is 1 month. Yep.
Is there a motion to approve June's actual expenses for charitable gambling?
I so move, Kevin Farnham.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Ray Siler.
Thank you. All for? All opposed? Would anyone like to abstain? Thank you. Motion passes. And just as another aside, this number really tends to fluctuate. In summer, when there are a lot of people here, we'll tend to see the number as a bit bigger. In the fall, when we're not seeing as many people, that number will really dip down. So if you are interested in doing anything with charitable fundraising, maybe consider being a director, maybe consider joining our team, but also know that our meetings are open to the membership. So if you want to learn how this is going on a monthly basis, the reports are always available on the website, or you're welcome to join in on our meetings. Anyone who has signed up for a membership form can vote on charitable fundraising things at any of our meetings.
All of the reports are posted online as well.
Yes.
So I think I actually might have one on here for this last month for us to look at.
Mhm.
So then this is July's estimated expenses. So a lot of this gets based on the month prior. Again, it's very much estimates because we don't know until we can do the end of the month what the actual costs are going to be, but there are some costs that come throughout the month. So they need to be approved beforehand, because in order for us to spend money on anything, it needs to be approved by the board. So similar to like the accounting software, it's direct deposit, it comes out in the middle of the month, and that's a set cost. So we always do a run through on these, and we just approve the estimated costs. And then similar with what we just did with June, we go back the following month and we approve the actual expenses. So I also need a motion for this. For July's estimated expenses of $11,022.06.
Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the estimated expenses? Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second, Kevin Farnham.
Thank you. All for?
Aye.
All opposed? Would anyone like to abstain? Motion passes.
Okay, and then this is that month-end membership report that I talked about. So this gets posted, I believe, on the website, correct, Esri?
Yeah.
For every month. So if you do have questions on anything, you can always go and look. It just really breaks it down quite a bit further as to if we're making money on either eTabs, eBingo, which are on the tablets, or the paper pull tabs out of the machine. So you can see that so like for this month here specifically, we had $60 in accounting software. We were actually long cash. So that means usually with the eTabs, it's not very precise because it's profit sharing throughout all the every location that has eTabs in Minnesota. So we actually ended up with more money than we were supposed to have for that. So that's good. Compensation is on there. E-bingo, again, that's the profit sharing based thing. The e-pull tab, equipment and revenue sharing, that's something we pay in based on how much the e-tabs are getting played. So usually if that number is higher, that means we made a higher number on the actual e-tabs. And then the gambling products would be actual paper pull tab boxes that we get to put into the machine. And then reimbursement for excess or short cash was a discrepancy in a paper pull tab game. And then it breaks it down over here. So you can see how much we had to pay in state and federal taxes. And then charitable contributions. I believe this was for June. So we actually made a contribution to the Lake Association for the fireworks. And I'll talk about that a little bit on the next slide of how we kind of control how much we're putting in. So the state of Minnesota has a lawful purpose rating. So every year at the end of the year, which for us is June or July, end of June, they rate how much money your charitable gambling has been able to donate for lawful purpose, which can be taxes. It's similar to that first breakdown we went through where we had some youth. We were donating to the youth hockey by having them help us, and then giving them those proceeds. And then we also, anything we donate back to the KLA is considered lawful purpose as a 501c3. So we have to stay above a 3-star, which is 30%, which means we are giving away 30% of the profits for that. As you can see with the last donation, we started to get down towards 30%, 33% or 34%, which I was a little bit nervous about as we came into the end of the year, because if you do drop below a 30%, you do get penalized, or you can actually go on probation where you're no longer able to do charitable gambling, which would obviously be a big disservice to the KLA. So at the end of June, we donated $7,500 to the KLA for the fireworks show, which that is what brought us up to then 43% on our donations.
I think that's the last slide. Is there
Perfect.
anything else?
Does anybody else have any questions on anything with the charitable gambling?
Are you only at Shady's? Can you go more?
We are only at Shady's. We don't have the resources to go to any other locations. Not that I know of. In working with the River Lakes Hockey, they I think are doing charitable gambling at the new brewery. The Legion runs their own, so definitely not locally, at least.
It definitely adds another revenue source. So it's another way that we can cover all sorts of different important projects to the lake. And so it's something that we consider to be very important, and it's very competitive out there. So there are a lot of other organizations that would really be gunning for one of those other businesses. And so that's a lot of the reason we need to have a manager per location. We don't have the ability to have a manager per location right now, and we would most likely be beaten to the punch by another organization. Right now, we pay a very competitive rent to Shady's to make sure that we can stay there. Yeah.
Can you build up cash over 30 years? Full money over 30 years?
So the issue with with building cash is actually that you get taxed on it. So we try to use the cash that we get from the charitable gambling, because if we don't get used, we get taxed on it again. We actually ran into that last year. It was kind of how we found that out. We ended up paying like an extra $9,000 in taxes, I think, last year on unused funds. So we've been really trying to use the funds as we get them. And then, so just a couple of things, I guess, that the funds pay for. Like I said, we did the $7,500 for the fireworks because we had donated the total of about $33,000, $34,000. A big chunk of that last year went to the inspectors, I believe. Correct, Kevin? To pay for the inspectors at all the different accesses.
Is there any other factor that comes into play other than the number of members, size of what, is there anything related to that at all?
There
Just
isn't.
strictly
Yeah.
profit?
Yep. Yeah, everything's based on the profit. So I do think the taxes, just from the little bit that I was looking over the reports, it seems as though the taxes have gone up from 23 to 24 year. If you look at how much we made versus how much we actually netted, the taxes went up pretty significantly for the state of Minnesota. So
Just in case you didn't notice, the state is doing real well. I mean, it's like, wait a minute. Seems like Joe and the team are doing all the work.
Is there Fed taxes on that too, or just state?
there's federal also.
Federal also.
Yeah. Majority of it goes to the state though. Most of the federal taxes that get paid out of there are actually for the organization, but the organization is showing income because of the charitable gambling. So,
Any other questions? Excellent. Well, if you have any other questions from now until, well, I suppose KLA doesn't exist anymore, we're always available to be contacted at contact@coronaslakeassociation.org. We also have our individual director emails on our website. So if you want to ask a question to Joe or the general charitable gambling team, those emails are available on the website. Thank you, Joe.
Yep.
If we could please give a round of applause to this team. They do incredibly long hours and incredible work to make sure that we have all of our projects funded. Okay, Kevin, I think this is you. So many of you will know Kevin Farnham, maybe a bit too well for some of you. We have had him on the board for many long years. We actually have him change sometimes. We bring him along to all of the meetings and presentations I have to go to. It doesn't work. You have to put the microphone on. So we have had his expertise on this for a very long time. He is thankfully considered one of the voices for Starry Stonewort in the state. And that is one of our greatest assets as a lake association, that we run probably the biggest Starry Stonewort management project in the country. We have the most data on Starry Stonewort in the state. And so we are constantly at the forefront of the research. We are constantly getting researchers reaching out. We have that benefit for researchers to come here and actually work on studies on the lake so that we have all of this data readily available to make sure that we are changing up tactics if we need to. But Kevin is going to tell you a little bit about all of our different prevention and management strategies and how those have been going this year. Give it up.
You killed my clicker.
I killed it. I think no one saw me chuck it against the wall, right? I was fast enough.
Clicker's dead.
I'll click it.
Okay.
Stand up there, look pretty.
Okay. So the two things that, again, kind of like we talked about last year, the two things that we really do for aquatic invasive species on the lake is we have the boat inspection program and we have the Starry Stonewort management program.
You stand over there.
You want me over here?
Yeah, so the live stream can see.
Oh, okay, I can do that. Boat inspection program, still doing 3 accesses. Give you an idea of the number of inspections. In 23, we did 5,744 inspections. In 24, 5,560. Highway 55 is still the busiest. It's always been the busiest. Not really surprising that it is. We contract with the water guards through the North Fork of the Crow River Watershed District. They sign the delegation agreement with the DNR, which is what passes the authority from DNR through the watershed to the water guards to actually, those inspectors can actually stop a boat from launching if they can live through it. Did you catch the drift of that? If they can live through it. Because when you have a boat, like someone who's ready to launch their boat and they're ready to go, and the inspector says, no, your boat's dirty, you can't launch, they're not going to be particularly happy about it. And so we work real hard to keep that all kind of under control, and you hope that the people, the boaters, whether they be recreational boaters, fishermen, whatever, understand what they're supposed to be doing. To give you an idea of how many hours are spent, I put it on, and so you can see each year. I hadn't done that before, but we track that through the watershed. Thanks to the watershed for gathering all those numbers, because what happens is we make our donation or contribution to the watershed, and they pay the water guards. They are contracted with the water guards, and it has to be that way because that's how the authority passes from DNR down to that inspector. Total program cost, give you an idea of what it's costing us. $55,000, and this is just for the Coronis access. The budget actually is much bigger than that, because the budget that they work with actually covers Rice Lake also, because we treat this as a watershed project. We have from the very beginning, and I noticed Al was here, who was on our very original committee working on the AIS. We've always treated this as a watershed issue, because what happens at Grove Lake, they now have zebra mussels, and I don't know if any even been discovered in Rice. Not officially, but because they're part of the chain, they get listed as having zebra mussels as well. So, but it's what happens to Grove happens to Rice, happens to Cronus, and so that's why we've always treated it as a watershed problem.
Can I have an aside?
Yeah.
So if you're interested in seeing more of the breakdown of these numbers and the impact of these numbers, there is a boat inspection report that is available on our website and also is sent out with the newsletter. We had seen a study come out from DNR where they paused a lot of anglers and they asked, well, is there any specimens on your boat? And what they saw was about a 30 to 40% that had plant matter on their boats. We don't know if that's native. We don't know if that's invasive species, but potentially we could be seeing 3 in 10 boaters that are coming into Coronis with plant matter on their boats. It's safe to say we do not want any invasive species in our lake, but we certainly do not want more. So that is why we continue to push this program so aggressively, so that we can continue to keep any additional invasive species out of our lake and out of our neighboring lakes.
And that's why you'll see this one is prevention is 1/10 the cost. We clearly know that, because we know the cost of what it's taken us to try to manage the starry stonewort in the lake. So prevention is the answer, and all we can do is keep preventing the next thing that's coming. And other things are coming closer. Other aquatic invasive species, one called hydrilla, aquago mussels is another one. So they're getting closer. Go ahead.
I have a quick question. Only 3 accesses, there's more than that on Coronis.
Well, there's 3 accesses. So the reason we only do 3 accesses from a risk standpoint, those are the ones that are the busiest. The access down here by the old Rumble Bridge down on this end of the lake has, I think it's got 4 parking spots. And typically what we find is used by locals only, which present it's not that they present no risk, they present less risk than the transient boater that's jumping lake to lake to lake to lake to lake. And we can't, there's no way to stop that. So yeah. You know, there's another one, the Tom Putsky, thank you. You think I'd remember that. The Tom Putsky one, which has no parking other than Dave Heike's lawn, you know, if you know Dave. So, you know, and it's not even tarred. So trying to put an inspector there, it doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, and we limit the hours that are here at the regional park because we see the traffic is, you know, in the beginning we did a lot of inspection, a lot of hours. And from that, we've kind of tracked when are the high spots, when are the low spots and stuff. So, okay, good question. Thank you. So, and again, we're always limited by the funds. We're limited by the number of contractor staff. You know, it pays, I think it pays pretty decent for someone that doesn't have difficult work. The difficult work that I see there is working with people, because you've got to get people to, you're gonna inspect, and that's the hard part. I think otherwise they do a lot of kind of sitting around and waiting for the boats to come. But that's it. So it's hard to get people that are there. And the price of that, when we first started, just to give you an idea, when we first started, I think we paid $16 an hour. And I believe now we're up to $30 an hour. And it's a hiring agency that does it. You know, one of the early years, the watershed actually did the hiring themselves. And so the cost was much less, but it's hard to maintain that. So we weren't able to continue that. So all of that is funded, special donations from shore owners, from you folks. We do get about $11,000 to fund this on Highway 55 from Meeker County. We have AIS funds that come from Stearns County that we get. So the watershed actually submits for a grant from Stearns County AIS committee, and I believe it's around $55,000, but that pays the full budget. The full budget's around $103,000, $108,000 for the watershed. 55 of that is roughly paid for by Stearns County, and I'm going to come back to that money, where that money comes from quickly. We get a contribution from the Painesville Township and the Union Grove Township as well. So Union Grove Township is out here in Meeker County. Painesville is here. We're actually in Painesville Township right here. But let's see, the launch across the road is Union Grove Township in Meeker County. We're in Stearns. So it's like right here. So, okay, next slide. So politics behind the funds. So this year, the AIS funds for the two counties comes from a $10 million legislative a grant that goes out to the counties, and it's split up to the counties. When the governor, and this will get political here for a moment, when the governor went through and did his budget, he cut that money, that 10 million. He said, okay, we're going to cut our budget, and he cut all these things, and he said, we're going to make that 50%. So that meant that money that goes out to the counties, which pays for management, for AIS inspections, for things dealing with AIS, was going to go down to instead of 10 million, go to 5 million. That would have almost killed the program in the county. Not just our county, but across the state. Because that 10 million also generates probably another $9 to $10 million in other funds and stuff that come out of lake associations, residents and stuff. So there was a big effort when the budget was being worked on, and there were like 9,000 letters that went into the governor to say, don't do this. Don't cut that money for the AIS, because it's going to impact the state in other ways, because the lakes are so important to the state, but people tend to forget that. And so that money was on its way out. In 2 years, they will review that again. So please, please, please consider, if you know someone, if you know your legislators, emphasize how important the AIS funds are for the counties in the state of Minnesota. And it's nice that money goes to the counties. It does not go to DNR. It goes to the counties, and that money is split up. And are we involved with that? I chair that committee. So yeah, we're involved. We are pretty much involved with what's going on. And I'm just one. There's other lake associations around, and we're all involved. It's a volunteer organization. It's kind of a model organization. The way the lakes are, the people that are in that committee are really committed. So unfortunately, we get less and less hours over time. and because of the cost going up. See, oh yeah.
Do you want me to go?
Yep, go. Okay, Starry Stonework Management. I'll try and go faster. You have a picture here of someone's hand, could be mine, anyhow, showing Starry Stonework. Is now a good time to show some examples? Somehow these examples appeared here.
Show the other one.
Oh, you want the big? This is the little one, but this is the big one. So this is what they look like. So we have, that's as good as we can get for examples. Someone got a 3D printer. How did this ever happen? Wasn't me, but I know someone who got one, and so been playing with it. No one in the state has one of those. So
Now we have a thing.
now we have a fake one. But anyhow, the Starry Stonework, so chemically treated 100, the most we can chemically treat is 170 acres. We did 3 surveys last year and planned this year survey densities. So give you a little bit of history where we are. Monday, Tuesday, we treated on the lake. Great days for treating. No wind. No wind helps the treatment. It gets the chemicals in the water and they stay put. We did a survey the week before. We did a survey, I think it was the 31st of June. They have to translate that data into, in our case, I get our permit clear back in January. And I do that because DNR isn't busy. They can go through, they have all the time they want, they can ask questions. It really helps them and it makes us more popular with them. But I did have to this year, as I have it sometimes in the past, gone back in. The survey that we do in June, late June, we try to do it as close to the actual treatment. And the survey that we do in late June can change what we permit in January. Because what we permit in January is our best guess of what happened last September. And so we're always trying to catch up. So I kind of have this deal worked out with the DNR, and they really help us. They actually we had to modify our permit, and they do that in a day for us. That's like unheard of. People, like, you tell that to other places, and it's like, no, they're turning it in a day to modify the permit and get it in the hands, because it then goes to the people that do the application. And they put it on their Garmin so that when they come out with their boats, they're staying only in the defined areas. This year, the survey revealed that we needed to do 107 acres. That's the least amount of acreage that we've had to do on that first treatment in the year for several years. Let's hope that's a really good sign. And let's hope that we don't have to do a lot on our second treatment. We always set it up for 2 treatments. So this was last year's, the cost was $150,000 plus some watershed expenses. This is all funded by you through the watershed petition. And we do get a $5,000 grant. I still submit for other grants. I said I would do that when we signed the petition. We get a $5,000 grant of that money from Stearns County. And I don't reach out to Meeker County. It confuses them when I do that. So I only go to Stearns County to do that. It also confuses me. So, okay, next one. Okay, yeah. I think when it got converted, some dates got eliminated. So anyhow, so this must have been, the 170 was I think in 23. This was 24, and the cost was 132,814 plus the watershed expenses. So that was the 24. So you're getting, what I was trying to show you is how it's changed over the years. So this is 24. Go on to the next one. Right, and so then this is this year's. Our budget's 170,000. I don't think we're going to get, keep your fingers crossed. My plan is to not get anywhere near that because we're trying at the same time, we have to pay back money to the watershed that was used to establish the petition. And the plan that we've worked out is to try to get, I think, that paid back completely almost this year. And then once we get all of that paid back and stuff, then we have a chance of trying to reduce that tax. And that's the goal, is to try to get that tax moving down, which impacts all of us. So next one. Is that it?
No. So I have something to say here.
Oh,
So as you can tell from the clarity that Kevin is able to speak to this with, we have spent a lot of years, a lot of time, a lot of effort really understanding this process, understanding how it can best benefit Coronas, and workshopping it to make sure that we're doing it in the most effective and cost-effective way so that we can limit the amount of chemicals we're putting into the lake, but maximize the effect that we have. There are always reports available to you on the website, but they're like 50 pages long. So we understand if you're not reading through them before bed. What we have started to do is create YouTube videos that have summaries of what we are doing. This is a 5-minute video that is currently up on our YouTube page that details how we do the surveys. You'll see how they perform the surveys, how they log all of the locations, what we are looking for, how we know instantly what species we are looking for and what we're finding, and a lot of the other parts of the survey that you probably don't know about. So if you're interested in that, it's a 5-minute video. It's up on our YouTube page from Coronas Lake Association.
and you'll see me sitting in a chair. I get smarter. Usually I just sit on a cushion. My back gets really sore. So sitting as we go around the lake. So
He had me sitting on the metal.
yeah,
So he's complaining a lot for someone who didn't have
Yeah.
to sit on the metal.
yeah. She gets the cold butt instead of me. All right. So special thanks to our vendors. We work with a company by the name of Lake Restorations. They're out of Rogers, Minnesota. We have just a really good relationship with them. And it really helps us a lot because we influence the amount that we use for the chemicals. We influence their production. So they're always being sure that we have enough for whatever our needs are here. It's a very good relation. The other one is with Blue Water Science. They're very well known around the state, and again, a good relation. And I think it really pays to have our vendors do that. The Mathewitz Company, which we do get questions on. Mathewitz Solutions was the one that was running the harvester, the mechanical puller for us, and that they no longer run that because it died. They would have still been running it. It was tired. They could not fix it anymore. And when a company the size of Mathewitz that does road construction says they can't fix it, I believe them. They can't fix it because they welded and soldered that thing together to keep it running for a couple of years. They just said, we can't, it's too tired. Thank you for your cooperation, your support. It's great when we go around the lake, we see people out, we always visit and stuff and get caught up for just brief moments, but it's good. We always have good support from you, so thank you very much for that. And then thanks to Mike Arnold for use of his property. We always, down there by the outlet is where the chemicals and stuff are, that's where their truck is, and it's all, hazmat, around it. They don't want to spill on the ground. That's not the appropriate use of that chemical. So thank you. And I think that's it for me.
You have 2 more slides, but
I do?
yes, you do. But if you have any more questions, the other handout that we had on the check-in table is about our Starry Stonewort Management Program. So we're going to talk a little bit here about why we have other invasive species on our lake, but why we aren't able to do anything about them, or why it's maybe not enough of a problem for us to do anything about it yet. But if you are interested in learning more about our Starry Stonewort Management Project, how it came to be, there is a brochure over there. Please take them. I promise we have enough to go around. So some of your questions may be answered in there.
Yep, you're right. Now I remember.
Aren't I always?
Yeah. Okay, I just thought it would be interesting for you to show in 23, we actually plotted where we found zebra mussels around the lake. And we're finding them when we did our survey, almost every time we do a pull, a rake pull, we find the starry stone, or I'm sorry, the zebra mussels, we find them attached to the vegetation. The interesting thing is that doesn't mean that they're all around the lake. They're in the water, they're on the vegetation pretty much around the lake. But I know that I'm on the east side, and literally the wheels on my lift looked like they had moss growing on them. There were so many zebra mussels. Yet, talking with other people, I think, Leo, you didn't have any on your wheels last year, right? Very little. I know that my daughter-in-law runs around the lake, and she kind of keeps track of it for me, where she looks at wheels and sees them. And there's some areas that you don't see any on the wheels. Trevor, I don't think you had any on your wheels, did you? And you're on this side of the lake, just down here, you know. And so it's scattered. Why? We don't know why they're on some and up the shore, and why they're not on others. Have no idea. I hope it stays that you don't, those that don't have them yet on shore, I hope it stays that way for you. Don't count on it, but I really hope it stays that way. But I thought you would get this. This map actually appeared in one of the newsletters as well. And so that's what it is. So the red areas were the areas that they were at in 23 that they were finding them. But it's much fuller now. So we'll come out with when we do our point intercept survey, which is a broader survey, which is the one where we actually hit all of these points and more, we will put out another map again next year, because it's really interesting. Unfortunately, there's not much we can do about it other than watch what's happening and pay attention. So did you have something on this?
Yes. So if you have been around the lake and you think zebra mussels are just as much of a nuisance and a harm as we do, we're completely with you. So we spend maybe somewhere from 5 to 10 additional hours a month trying to stay on top of all of the research that is coming out. Because zebra mussels are a relatively new thing to Minnesota, there is some newer research coming out of the University of Minnesota and their Minnesota Aquatic Invasive Species Research Center. We are on all of those calls, all of those meetings, waiting, hoping, praying that there could be something that could come out to treat zebra mussels. Right now, there does not seem to be an effective treatment. We don't want to put chemicals into the lake for no reason. So we are waiting, and please hope with us that there is something that comes out. But right now, the most we can do is continue to advise you guys to be cautious and safe around the water, and hope that we do stay with this, that there seems to be breaks and it's not the entire lake. There is some preliminary research that suggests that there could be an influence. It's hard to definitively know, and it's because it's very new stages, and there's a lot of like wind mixing and different things that could be components. It's not done on this lake. There is a newer study that's coming out. I don't think it's published yet, so we can't see it yet, that included Coronis pre-zebra mussels. So we're hoping that that might generate some interesting data. But we cannot say for sure that our treatments from starry stonewort had an effect on zebra mussels.
What we have heard in some of the latest stuff is that the thought is that the zebra mussels, when they're very small, they're called veligers, and they are in that state of a veliger, kind of free swimming, and then they'll do what is referred to as they'll settle. And once they settle, there's some slight bit of movement, I think probably more by happen chance, that they can relocate. And the information that has come out is to say, well, I mean, we always thought that once they settle, that's it. That's where they're going to be, and that's it. But yet we know that the information is saying, well, there's a possibility that there's some additional movement that they could be doing. They have something called byssal threads, which almost look like little feet. It's not, but it's a thread that's what they're using to attach. You know, and we saw firsthand this year on a pontoon boat on sea legs that something had got there, and it's like there's no way that it grew there that size. It was at least a year old, and it was on some sea legs, and it was not on when the sea legs went in the water, but yet they were on there and it was attached. So that meant that it had to have attached when it was much older. That's not what the old science is saying, but the new science is saying, yeah, that's a possibility. So everything is, we're learning. So go ahead, let's go do the next one so I can get the next person up. Curly-leaf pondweed. I threw this out. We have two other invasives in the lake, by the way, other than starry stonewort. Curly-leaf pondweed is one. What's the third? What's the next one? Nope, we don't have. We do not have. We have milfoil. We have northern. Someone said it. I thought I heard him say it. Carp.
Oh, that was me behind the screen.
Oh, that was
sorry.
you behind the screen. Oh, geez.
I was
I was giving
sorry.
you guys credit, man. You got to take it. Anyhow, so curly-leaf pondweed, big crop this year. I sit in on calls with other guys, people from across the state. We're not the only one that had a big crop. For some reason, the curly-leaf, I think it has to do with the ice thickness and the snow, or the lack of thereof snow, that the curly-leaf pondweed, big crop across the state. So everybody was having a problem with curly-leaf pondweed. But the curly-leaf pondweed goes through something called a senescence. And what that is it's a dieback. We're already into the dieback here. And so it's starting to die back, and that's why we've never done any treatments and stuff with curly-leaf, because it goes through this process that it comes up early and it comes up fast because it's growing under the ice, and then it dies back. And so it goes down and not a problem. Doesn't all die back, but most of it dies back. And so that's the other thing that we have here. So we've never done any treatment for curly-leaf here. And curly-leaf isn't even tracked by the DNR anymore because it is so prevalent. There is some talk by some of the DNR people to say, well, it's been here so long, let's just call it a native. I disagree with that, but that's the answer. That's their answer.
Kevin disagreeing with something. That's new.
I hate to disagree with the DNR. Who's laughing? So remember, clean your water. And a lot of your boats and stuff are captive on the lake. It's when you go off for service, if you have to take them off, if you have guests coming to your place, and someone mentioned about the number of accesses. We have so many accesses that are public accesses. There's probably also somewhere between 15 and 20 additional accesses to the lake that are private. So you just want to be careful if you have people come to your lake and use the access that you may have on your property. Be sure that they clean, they drain, they dry, they dispose of their bait. And there is a law that says you can't travel around the state. That's with any weeds hanging down. Doesn't matter if they're invasives or not. You cannot do that. It's illegal. You have to have your drain plug out if you travel around, and be careful when you're launching your boat or you take it out at the end of the year. Pull that plug at the access, get it drained. And docks and stuff are supposed to be out of the water for 21 days. That's what DNR says, because they're really smart. The science says it's 32. Just to let you know, the science is different than what DNR says. Okay, I've made my hits on DNR. My day
Get off your soapbox.
My day can be complete.
All right. Would you please all join me in giving Kevin a round of applause? Excellent.
Joe, remind me.
Colton. To Colton. So our next section is water quality. So I will be running through a couple of the projects that we've been going on and a couple of updates, but we also have a guest here. Please welcome.
Hi everyone, my name is Colton Hendrum. I'm the administrator of the North Fork. For those of you who don't know who we are, we're a local government unit that Lake Cronus is under our jurisdiction of. Our office is up in Minnesota. We're basically set up to deal with water. There's a handout I think that was passed around. This is the 2024 Lake Cronus basically water quality report. So
I have
is the person on the lake here. who does
Koozies do
our
not help.
water quality sampling for us, so huge thanks to him. Without him, we would not be able to get this data. So the front page kind of goes over some of that data we collected in 2024. Then I'll just real quick touch on the back page. At the top there, we have our long-term lake corona trends. So those trend lines are called the trophic state index, and that is basically how clear is your water, and it measures how deep down you can see in it, along with chlorophyll that plants use, also algae uses to grow. So the good news is, you can see those trend lines are kind of going down, and then on the bottom, it says improving with a 90% confidence on one side and 99% confidence on the other. So we are seeing increased water quality throughout the years here. That's from a number of different things. We have landowners upstream on the North Fork Crow River that are implementing water up. We have lakeshore owners implementing water up. So we're going in the right way. It's not an overnight thing. But that's kind of the goal. With that, if you're a new landowner here and you want to do a project on the lakeshore, we have some of those listed under there. You can contact our office. We'll get you in touch with help you provide some funding for that. But if East Stearns County or the Lake Association, our contact. The other thing I just wanted to mention is the watershed is kind of the fiscal. So if you guys have a question about your property tax statement, call me if you have questions about it, and I can talk you through that. If you have questions about the actual project on the lake, like when they're going to be spraying chemicals, hey, I'm having people here, contact the Lake Association, because they're the ones that actually oversee. Call our office, I'll just be I'm going to make this quick, so if you guys have any other questions, our contact's on the last thing I'll say is one thing I've been hearing a lot of is people asking me, since there's zebra mussels in all the lakes now, are they going to filter the water and make it clearer? The answer is maybe, possibly. Yes, they will filter out some of the chemicals. It's not going to be like a fix for water quality problems. Quick fix to clear up the water. Might change it a little bit, might not change it any. And we've seen in the other lakes too, we might get a big bloom of zebra mussels, and then they'll kind of level out. We're just gonna have to wait and see. Does anyone have any questions for me regarding off the office if you want to go, personal financial?
Just, so you know, because someone were asking kind of like, over the years, we actually have work on the lake that helps us. Those are like other places that and go. That's where the relationship with the watershed. Unfortunately, this year they didn't have anybody job offer that they had. So by the way, if you have someone in your family that's probably up next year or that's looking for a job, that's a great place to do it, and especially if environment or something, it's a great place to work and get them on the job. They won't have to do just out in
So much better.
Yeah, check about in early March that application comes up. Then the last thing I'll say is just big thanks to the board of the Kevin drives up all the way out to Bruton, Minnesota to our board meetings at night. Sets have a lot of people who are.
Thank you for coming. All right, I'm going to breeze through a couple of these things. We know that not everyone gets the newsletter, but if you have gotten your newsletter and read through it, some of these things will sound pretty familiar to you. So we try a different couple of strategies to making sure that we're improving water quality and keeping water quality from getting worse also. So some of that preventative action. So this last year, we participated in the Keep It Clean campaign. Now, this was a matching program, so we had $500 going toward this, and that $500 was matched. And what we were hoping to do was encourage people that were out on the lake ice fishing to make sure that they were cleaning up after their space and following all of the different new regulations that have come into place. So we had about 134,000 times that the message was displayed. As explained in the article, this does not mean that this number of people interacted with it, that it was clicked on. It was actually clicked on 139 times. This is extraordinarily high for this kind of campaign. So we are hoping that we're continuing to see an improvement from this as more and more people get in the know. Our next article talked about zebra mussels and water clarity. So a couple of people are wondering, well, it looks pretty clear at this time of year. Is that because of zebra mussels? And as Colton said, the answer is we don't know yet. So zebra mussels have not been in Coronis for a long enough time to have us have the data to see a surprising amount of clarity. What we do know is that when we go out and do our Secchi disc readings, how many people know about Secchi discs? Is that a familiar word? Okay, so how we look at water quality or water clarity usually is we lower something called a Secchi disc into the water. Once you can no longer see it, that's the water clarity. So we take these readings at 3 times in the year. We'll take it in early spring, summer, sometime in there, and then fall. We will typically see pretty good water clarity at the start of the year. And then as we get into different environmental conditions, as we get rain, as we have different temperatures, it gets hotter in the summer, and so we see more algae, and that water clarity will start to fall off. We have seen similar water clarity from this year, also in 2012, 2013, and 2018. So is this unusual water clarity? Not right now. If we see this as a pattern for the next few years, there might be some part of zebra mussels that are involved, but right now we can't say that that's the case. Another thing that we look at is the littoral zone. The littoral zone is the area of the lake where plants can grow. This is something that we are looking at when we do our point intercept surveys. And if zebra mussels are truly impacting the clarity and we're getting increased clarity, plants will be able to grow further and further because the sunlight will be able to penetrate deeper into that lake. That littoral space will grow. So this was a kind of just summary of those 2 articles. If you're interested in reading more about it, please pick up a copy of the newsletter. But I want to talk more about the water quality projects that we've been funding. I've alluded to them a couple of times. I've talked about how the charitable fundraising has gone to promote some of these water quality projects. So here is a couple of examples of what those projects look like. If you're interested in doing a water quality project of your own, I have the next slide for you. So these are our 2 projects and 1 category of projects that we've been working on. Our Bay project is what we consider the #1 cause for erosion concern and nutrient loading in the lake. Right now, after 20 years of working on this project and working with the stakeholders involved, we are in the construction phase. We have sent out bids, we are asking for people to participate, and we are getting to hear back soon. So hopefully this project will see the finish line soon enough. What we're targeting here is creating holding ponds to hold that excess nutrients. When we have nutrients that come off of agricultural fields, off of lawns, anything that contains phosphorus or nitrogen, you're going to see more algae in the lake. More phosphorus and nitrogen, more green. Now, we always try to find a nice balance between what is healthy for the lake and what is aesthetically pleasing. I don't think anyone will argue with me here that a really green lake is not the most fun to swim in, but that can have important nutrients for fish fry, for other organisms that survive off of the lake. So again, we try to find that really nice balance between promoting the lake health and making sure that it's as best as it can be, and also making sure that our shore owners, that our residents, that everyone that uses Coronis is able to use it to the utmost. Then we have shoreline repairs. Now, this is a kind of category. These are a lot of smaller projects where we are going out to individual homeowners and helping them to repair different things. This prevents erosion so that excess phosphorus and nitrogen from getting into the lake. Then our third project is over at Stonegate. If you've driven past, you've probably seen that a significant portion of that hill has started to fall down. We are currently in discussion with different stakeholders, so right now the Soil and Water District, to see what can we best do to support that initiative. Now, we try to cover as many projects as we can. Because this is such a big lake, there are many shore owners, there are many stakeholders. So we have this policy guideline that we have developed that really helps us to narrow in on what is the most we can do with the funding we have at our disposal. I'm not going to read this all because I do not want to keep you captive longer than I have to, but this will be available to you on the website. And if you have a water quality project or something that you would like to ask, is this a water quality project? Can I receive support on this? Please reach out to us and we will help you move through this process. We are able to connect you with stakeholders that can help you or even give you funding. Are there any questions here? Okay. Some additional project considerations. We want to make sure that every proposed project has an advance to KLA's mission. We want to make sure we're promoting the protection and improvement of the lake. We want to focus on lake-wide benefits. We want to demonstrate environmental value with the project and comply with all regulations. There are some projects that the city, county, state will just not allow. So as much as we think that maybe this is something that should be done, if it doesn't comply with regulations, we don't want to encourage something that would be not right, not by the book. We also evaluate projects depending on the severity and the urgency of the issue. As you saw, we had a #1 erosion concern, which is why that has been our top priority for decades now. And so we are working toward that as fast as we can. And so depending on how soon people want to process construction, how soon the process can be gotten through, that'll change. We also look at the scale of the impact. Again, this #1 project is focusing on a bay. All of those nutrients coming through those areas. It'll affect the person that we're working with, their neighbors. That'll have a very large impact. One plot might not have as much. We also look at expected environmental outcomes. Now, this is something that we want to make sure benefits the whole of the lake and has a lake as its focus. So aesthetics are not as much a part of this, although we are always happy to look at so many pretty properties around the lake. Okay, with that said, I am going to talk very briefly about all of the different activities that KLA has been a part of, and then we will invite Joe Burback up to talk about the survey. We are almost through the entire thing. Right after that, we will be talking about directors again. Now, this is my favorite part because I get to stare at you all for 1 minute and 30 seconds. So if any of you want to cut that short, consider volunteering to be a director. So our activity highlights. On our website, you can find our event page. This is where all of the information for our events will be. Some of the things that we've done, 5th grade Waterfest. It is a phenomenal event that we love participating in year after year. So many great people that are there. We actually attended the Town and Country's Day Parade, and some of the 5th graders recognized me and started shouting back facts, which is like if you've ever had a nightmare about being back in high school and like forgetting your locker combination, it was something to that effect. We have attended a lot of Min-Cola meetings, a lot of external lake meetings where we're passing on information about starry stonewort, where we're taking in their information about the invasive species they've dealt with. We did the 4th of July fireworks. I hope you guys were all able to see that. The 4th of July boat parade. And at the end of July, we will be partnering with the Painesville Historical Society to have a Family at the Lake Day. More information will be coming out about that soon, so I hope you guys will all be able to attend. And with that, please welcome Joe to talk about the survey.
We're on the home stretch. Block anything that's and then very quickly before we start talking about you and what you think, hey,
my son did a lot of this work. Charlie, he's a senior in college. It's Saturday morning, and I'm told at 10:20 in the morning. So he might be watching us. But thank you, Charlie, if you watch the recording later. Number two, lots of opinions. Hey, what's going on with it? That's wonderful. What we're going to go through, though, is not a summary of everything that's important. Everything that's important. Those that benchmark that I hope we can do another all if we've improved in certain. Number three, I apologize, but because I'm a plagiarist, I am going to cut for me. But this is a lot of numbers, a lot of information. I just want to make sure I do it. So we conducted the survey here. Letter, website, was in Painesville. 49 people chose to participate. Good number to get a mix. It's not going to be a perfect snapshot, but what we really tried to focus on was how we as assessing those things, what your thoughts were for how we could improve. We wanted to ask a bit really successful charitable gambling. It is a little complex. We want to be transparent. Transparency with how well we're doing. And then how can we better communicate? So, next slide. And on this side here. Oh, thank you. So when we asked you to rank your biggest concerns, two issues really: water quality and basic disease. No real surprise there. They're ranked number one by the majority of respondents. People were especially concerned about algae blooms, water clarity, pollution runoff, fries, especially water at algae blooms, toxins. So again, it's definitely a serious issue. The other equally big issue, like stormwater and zebra mussels. Know that Lake Coronis was the first in Minnesota to find sorry stormwater factors. And it's been a tough battle, but other concerns were mentioned were by fewer people. Voter safety, that was a concern, especially reckless voting, traffic. That different story, but a handful of people mentioned fishing quality, and a few mentioned shoreline erosion and in a top category, 70% of respondents chose either water quality. One thing that was mentioned a few times rising water levels. One person said years ago, high water levels were their thing. clearly clean water and stopping invasive species, highest priorities. Weather patterns, rising water levels. So how are we doing at addressing these concerns? We asked specifically, do people feel the KLA is adequately addressing these top concerns? Got for that was, in fact, about 2/3 who answered said that they didn't know enough about how we were doing in order to say that we were doing. A handful, 9 people said yes, and they felt that 4 people that said no. So what does this tell us? A lot of things. But to me, the takeaway is that a lot of the community members are aware of what we are doing. Talk more about that. It's not that we had a huge group of people saying, hey, you're doing a bad job. It's a sign we need to communicate. It also invite you more than formalize that. So, how can we improve? So how can we improve? Several themes. Aquatic, weed, and algae control. Want to see more done. Some suggested more frequent cutting. Our focus obviously has been yes, or how we might also, some people brought up fishery management. Folks reminisced about the days in which stocked walleyes. Now, one person said, I don't think we've restocked in a long time. Others suggested improvements like while fishing or fish stocking is generally our responsibility and collaborate and advocate. Part of it is also there are some things that are being done. Major concern that you said that we should focus on overuse and high impact fishing tournaments. People were concerned that stress on the lake increases the risk of aquatic invasive. Several suggested that we control the number of bass. Probably good guess. Doesn't control those permits, but we can, as your advocate, voice concern, coordinate with I also heard about concerns for boater behavior, shoreline erosion, with suggestions for no wake zones. One quote that came in is climate change is contributing to the rising water levels, which is increasing the impact of these activities. On the water quality front, there was a clear call to address a burden for owners. request that we lobby for stricter farm runoff regulations, flows, and so forth. That kind of advocacy, of course, requires that we partner with other agencies. Make you aware of where we're doing that, but also lastly, we saw a strong desire for community involvement. Several people suggested social events, neighborhood meetups. Some wanted opportunities, summer picnics, cleanup days. One person even suggested that we it's a little bit beyond their scope. Overall, there's a clear interest in KLA fostering a sense of community. Pat ourselves on the back, and again, a number of people said keep up the good work. So impressed with the KLA and the hard work that they do. So while there's room for improvement, it's good to recognize that people are involved for quite a while. So let's talk about charitable gambling very quickly. Yeah. 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 I'll pass you your $20. You're right on there, I think, and that for whatever reason, folks absorbing what is available. Question about what first, it was a majority of folks. I don't know if this group is represented. A lot of people that I think are curious, maybe they don't know what to expect. Haven't developed a habit. Not their fault. We can do it.
Hey, Joe, can I ask a question? How many people here today did the survey? 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a couple, but that's good. Glad you did. The rest of you have an opportunity, I think, is where you're still open to input. So,
absolutely. And this isn't meant to put a black mark on anyone, but how many of you that didn't fill out the survey knew about it? So only a couple people. So that tells me that
exactly.
even though we put it out there in 4 ways, it's not getting. We've got to find some better ways.
Right, and it seems like there's an opportunity for several of these also, because many of the things that came up on the one before this, KLA has talked about. And I know Lynn, who has long history with KLA, and certainly her husband did. A lot of this stuff is out there. It's how do we get it communicated to you? Because there's a whole discussion. The previous slide. I mean, I could go through each one of those and say, well, there's a discussion on fish stocking. There's a discussion on this. There's a discussion, the social piece. Some lake associations in the county actually have kind of 2 portions. There's the social portion, and then there's the mission of what the organization is about. And maybe that's a question that the board needs to really address, is to say, do we have enough force
I mean, we always struggle to get enough to do the actual lake stuff, you know, then you also want, you know, maybe there's a whole group that would sign up to say, hey, I'll do the social stuff, I'll do the party. Sue, right there. Signs right up for the party stuff. No, you can get her on into it. I mean, talk.
Yeah, yeah. Great, and I work in marketing. Patience is my hammer, so everything. And when I see that so many people are speaking up in the survey who aren't here, saying that they aren't hearing things, means they care. If they filled out this survey, they care. And they're saying, where do I find this stuff? So social activities, other avenues. So just moving forward into charitable gambling. I'm referring, of course, as you all know, to the full tabs at Shady. It showed that awareness of this program in particular is about half of the respondents said that they weren't aware that we had a program. In fact, of the 49, only 2 people describe themselves as very familiar with the program's working. Spreading the word. On the bright side, when we ask feelings about it, the opinion question appreciates and values KLA's efforts to raise funds. Over half the respondents gave a maximum rating of 10 out of 10 for KLA's efforts to make and raise funds for so there's strong support from principal. The key beyond just making people aware that we have the program is making people how are these funds used. People didn't feel that we had full transparency. I'd like to believe too. With that chart, a lot of information, a lot to take in. So maybe there's some ways that words people are saying. How about it? How it works? So that's a good place to start from. Skip ahead and let's talk about communication. We asked how people feel. Informed our review. 1 in 8 most acknowledge that they only know it's not a knock at anyone. Number 1 reason given is that I don't receive any notifications. That's significant. Here, we have a website. We're going to be spending some time right away going through When people were talking about, are we those that do, it really came across that splitters are great, but a lot of folks are really looking for some version. There's a digital shift going on. That's something that we're migrating to. Curiosity for this group, folks would prefer to. How many people are in here? Who would prefer print? So I don't think we can just throw the program for the print. Maybe to the website usage was so-so, about 17 people or 1/3 had actually visited the website. 14 people didn't. So considering that that's where everything lives, and make sure that and that we're pushing people there for certain types of information. Social media, 19 people said that they follow us on social media. Multi, there have to be a lot of different tools that we use. You can inquire about text messages, urgent data cross, or else that wasn't very popular. Kind of follows the industry trend. So tests are still relatively safe. They want to hear from their family. So member involvement then. On the participation side, among those who have been involvement levels really good, of all those that responded, only 13 indicated that they were. And of those numbers, though, it was a lot of seasonal. A handful said that they participated in events like picnics or cleanup, and a couple served on the board. But there were a lot that in fact, nearly everyone said that they would. Then to wrap it up, our key considerations that we're taking from this. Bring it up after the slide or to seek ways not happening. focusing on aquatic invasive species, we'll work on making sure the impact of our project. Perhaps provide people have a greater understanding of how it works. We do have relationships with a lot of we'll look at how maybe we can dial that up. And then, of course, involved. So many of you, I think, probably have additional thoughts. Thank you to all those that filled out the survey.
I have just the director thing that I want to get through, and then it'll be all you. Does that sound good, Leo?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So if you have any membership or community involvement questions, please visit our check-in desk for a membership form. I assume many of you have already done that, or find a board director. I think some of us will probably be sticking around for a couple of minutes afterward for any questions. But with that said, let's get to my favorite part, the director updates. And here's why it's my favorite part. There is so much that is done on the Lake Association to make sure that Coronis is a place that you want to stay at, that you want to keep coming back to, that you enjoy being at. And the Lake Association Board is a big part in how that gets done. I would like to take this moment to ask for a round of applause for the entire board and for all of the work that they've done in this year. Now, there are also 3 directors that are leaving us, and we are so sad to see them go. They are going for different reasons, but predominantly because they do not have the time to do this anymore, which is great because we're still good to be around them. That means it's not us. So we have Ray Lanning, who has been a big part of our charitable fundraising crew. We have Andy Wendroth, who I said was a big part of our membership. And we have Dan Ziegler, who is a big part of our community as a whole. Chances are you have known Dan Ziegler for a very long time. And he's a core part of our community and our association board. I know that they aren't here, but if we could give them a round of applause individually, that'd be fantastic. Now here's the awkward part. And it's every Minnesotan's favorite part because every Minnesotan loves to be stared at. So, I mean this. I will be standing here for 1 minute and 30 seconds. I will be counting in my head. So, I am going to run for re-election again. I just can't get enough of working for free. And so I am hoping that you all will re-elect me. But we are also looking for people that would be interested in participating in charitable fundraising, whether that is in a directorial position or whether you'd just like to be a part of our crew that is paid if you go out and help at Shady's. So that is one of our few opportunities to get paid. Water quality and aquatic invasive species, if you have an interest in that, if you want to help us move the needle, we'd very much appreciate that. So if you are interested, this is about 1 to 2 meetings a month, plus any of the other commitments that you want to sign up for. I promise I make the onboarding process very easy. I make it explicitly clear what you are supposed to be doing. But if you don't trust my word for it, I'm sure that any of my board directors would be able to give you an understanding of what that looks like. So here's what this is going to look like. I am going to ask if there are any nominations from the floor. Then I'm going to wait 30 seconds. During that 30 seconds of harrowing silence, where I stare into each one of your eyes, I want you to think, do I want to be a director of the Lake Association? If that's the case, if you're serious, no joke nominations of your friend that you want to torture. We've had that. If you are serious about wanting to be a director, we welcome you to nominate yourself, encourage someone else to be a director, and then we will make a nomination at the end of this 1 minute and 30 seconds where I will ask 3 times if there are any nominations from the floor to elect any other director that wants to be on the board. Does that seem clear? Excellent. At this time, are there any nominations from the floor? Guys, I'm so serious. Are there any nominations from the floor? 30, 29. Yes, they are often on Google Meets. Thank you. What's your name? What's your name? Okay, we've got 10 seconds left before I ask you guys again. And your name for the crowd? At this time, are there any other nominations from the floor? We have 4 open seats, and we have 1 person up for re-election and 2 nominations from the floor. Could be 2 more lucky people. That could be you. All right. Are there any other nominations from the floor? All right. Can I get a motion to re-elect Esri Farnham and elect Susan Iyer, Dwayne Davy, and Trevor Farnham to the Coronis Lake Association Board? Is there a second? Thank you. Could I get both of your names for the... Thank you. All 4 approving these 4 members to the Lake Association Board. Any opposed? Would anyone like to abstain? Thank you all, including those very brave individuals who stepped up to be on our board. We're very thankful. And I want to, okay, so this is when we are going to have our raffle, and also, Leo, we'd like to invite you to come up. We want to thank you all so much. We are incredibly grateful for the time and effort and thought you put toward us, for those that are able to donate, to continue helping our projects run, for those of you that were here because you cared enough to see what we were up to, for those of you that follow us on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. We are incredibly grateful. None of this could be done without you. It takes the collective effort of our community, and we are incredibly grateful for every ounce of effort you put into this. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for being a part of the Coronis Lake Association. Now, for those of you that put your name in our raffle, yes, we are going to lay out some of the items up here while Leo gives talks for a moment.
I'm Leo Lewis, and I'm representing the Faithful Students Foundation. I'd like some of the comments we had up there in the board just a little bit ago about how to get people talking. Well, next week, Saturday, there's a big get together that the community foundation is having over at Aquatic. I think a lot of you probably have an invite. How many of you have an invite for the? Good, great. Okay. How many don't have an invite? I don't know why you don't have an invite. Okay. So what we did is we wanted to get people from the lake area together. Just the thing we're talking about here. And it's not just for lake people, but that's where our major supporters are coming from. Lake area. So we've done this last year, I think we did it the year before. We just have a get together, let's talk about things. Social starts at 5 o'clock, and bring your wife, husband, enjoy it. Leave the kids at home. But what we want to do is just talk about things. We're not going to get up and have a demonstration, presentation on anything. It's just get the people together to social. Last year, we had 22 people there. Who were there last year? Okay, great. We got good results in. So, was it good?
Mhm.
Okay, come this year again, 5 o'clock. If you haven't registered yet, we need the names so we know how many people are going to be there. If you haven't got an invite, so we could have places to sign up. Joe is also on the community foundation board. But just sign up so we know how many people are coming. So 5 o'clock, Saturday, no program, it's just a social. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. Now, some of you may have seen the raffle. Some of you may have put your name in it. If you do not know what you are exactly in the raffle for, here is what it is. We have a merchandise website out on Redbubble that may or may not be familiar to you. All of the proceeds from these merchandise, which are made by our directors, we're not graphic designers, but I think we did an okay job. All of it goes directly to funding our water quality, aquatic invasive species, community involvement projects. If you feel like if you don't win, and if you feel like you really have a desperate urge for plastic knickknacks, I promise we still have stuff. So if you didn't get a floating keychain, you want a beer koozie or a stack of mints, let us know. But take it away. What is that?